The Renaissance man is an archetypal figure that embodies wisdom in its truest form, unfathomable knowledge and experience on a wide variety of fields, ranging from philosophy to art, all the way to the sciences. He possesses an unquenchable curiosity that makes him crave to sharpen all of his possible edges, a desire to explore his potential without being bound to any specific discipline of thought. If you are watching this video, chances are you are familiar with the work known as Hunter x Hunter, the manga by Yoshihiro Togashi, with 2 beautiful animated adaptations. You are also probably wondering, how does the concept of the Renaissance man tie into this fictional world? Truth is, not only is it present in Hunter x Hunter's story and characters, it is also brought to a higher degree, intensified and transformed into an almost necessary standard to be a competent individual. But in order to understand how Yoshihiro Togashi implemented the archetype in his story, which is, as we will see, what ultimately led him to create such a compelling and fascinating array of characters, we first need to fully comprehend what is a Renaissance man. The term Renaissance man was first recorded in written English in the early 20th century, and as indicated by its name, it is mainly used to describe a type of scholar that was allegedly common in the Renaissance. Thinkers who delved deeply in different subjects, a description that also fits the word polymath. Polymath has Greek roots, polymates, meaning having learned much. One of the first definitions comes from the Hamburg philosopher Johann von Bauern in 1603, who is also the first person to publish a work with polymath included in its title. He describes it as knowledge of various matters, drawn from all kinds of studies, ranging freely through all the fields of the disciplines, as far as the human mind, with unwearied industry, is able to pursue them. The Renaissance man is a person who does not follow a specific tendency in his craft. He mixes the old and the new, getting the best of both worlds. An example of that would be Leon Battista Alberti, a Florentine architect of the first half of the 15th century. He belonged to what we would today consider to be the second generation of Renaissance men. He followed the footsteps of Filippo Brunelleschi, a revolutionary architect who had changed the paradigm of architecture forever. Brunelleschi had evolved away from the Gothic international architectural style, introducing back shapes of classic buildings. A movement of bringing back the old Roman glory had been building up for a long time in Italy, and Brunelleschi was the pop of the bubble. Everyone that followed him was eager to emulate his style and apply his discoveries. Alberti himself did this. Take for example St. Andrew's Basilica or the Church of Santa Maria Novella, with their prominent arches and columns following the old Roman style. But how could this tendency be applied to a common street building? It's not only that normal Roman households had not survived. Even if they had, the necessities of the common folk had evolved with more than a millennium of time difference. Alberti was the man who managed to solve this problem. He designed a 3-story building for the rich Ruthelite family, following the current trend, but he also incorporated classic elements, adding a new flavor and unique appeal to the edifice. He was the first to truly understand the scope and characteristics of Brunelleschi's revolution. Filippo Brunelleschi didn't just copy Roman buildings. That would be impossible. The necessities had changed. He translated the elder primordial glory of the Roman shapes to his time. But Alberti was the one who truly merged old and present eras. But did this tendency of polymath people truly begin and reach its utmost intensity during the Renaissance? Truth is, it did not. In ancient Greece, a schism did not exist between fields like philosophy or mathematics, which seem to be separated by miles in this day and age. In fact, many of the mathematical advancements done in those times, which are incredibly important foundations today, were made by people who were also pioneers and role models of philosophy. Here are some examples. Pythagoras, best known for the Pythagorean theorem in geometry, was also a philosopher, and he influenced Plato and Aristotle. René Descartes, although post-Renaissance, was a French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist. He is regarded as the father of modern philosophy, with contributions like his method of doubt, which gave birth to the famous quote, "Cogito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. He also created transcendental innovation in mathematics, the Cartesian coordinate system, among many other things. And this phenomenon is not limited to academic areas. Physical health was also held in a big regard. The cult to the body, and those who were obsessed with taking care of it, were not seen with good eyes by the Stoic school of philosophy, but individuals who neglected their bodies were considered equally bad examples. He took a reasonable care of his body's health, not as one who was greatly attached to life, nor out of regard to personal appearance, nor yet in a careless way, but so that, through his own attention, he very seldom stood in need of the physician's art, or of medicine, or external applications. In the classic historic period of ancient Greece, a man named Aristocles was born in Athens. He was trained in gymnastics by a wrestler named Ariston, who, due to his robust figure with a prominently wide back, allegedly gave Aristocles the name of Plato. Plato is an immensely known philosopher. He is partly responsible for the West's current way of thinking, although he lived more than 2,000 years ago. A fact known by few is that as a young wrestler, Plato competed in the Isthmian Games, an athletic event very similar to the Greek Olympics. Now we have an example of a Renaissance man, a polymath, who was exceedingly competent intellectually, but also bodily, at least in his youth. But how does all of this tie into Hunter x Hunter? Let's see. Hunters are given many privileges internationally, as well as liberties, which the conventional Hunter x Hunter world person could only dream of. An example of this could be seen in the Hunter Association's first commandment: hunters must always be on the hunt for something. The term hunt acts as a metaphorical representation of the constant, never-ending pursuit of objectives, giving a hunter the liberty to dedicate his life to those endeavors he deems to be interesting, but only if he has previously demonstrated his worth. If you look at a bunch of different hunters and compare them, the differences are remarkable to say the least. You have archaeological hunters, gourmet hunters, crime hunters, and the list goes on. But why would someone like Ging, a ruined hunter, whose real-life parallel would be a renowned archaeologist, need to be a hunter to be able to work? The answer lies in the definition of the Hunter Association, a non-governmental organization responsible for the testing and licensing of hunters, individuals who have proven themselves through the rigorous exam to be elite members of humanity. Many individuals with diverse professional aspirations desire to become hunters due to the aforementioned advantages they get with the license. But why aren't those benefits given to the respective professionals of their field who deserve them and have demonstrated so through their life's work? Why would those people need to pass an exam where they are evaluated about things that have nothing to do with their occupation? Because in this setting, you cannot only excel on one thing. Obviously, once you are a hunter, a professional hunter, you can diverge based on your interests, but you first have to prove to the world that you are worth it in every possible way willpower, fast thinking, strength, fighting abilities, intelligence, patience, commitment, and many more. You have to prove that you are an elite member of society. Notice the similarities with the idea of the Renaissance man. Hunter x Hunter further sees the scope, mixing fields of human expertise that were clearly separate even in ancient times, perfecting the concept in a world where it belongs and makes sense. But Hunter x Hunter shares a connection with the concept even beyond what we have already acknowledged. To understand it, we first have to discuss the quintessential Renaissance man. Known by many, Leonardo da Vinci was the first of the Cinquecento legendary master artists. He was born in a village in the Tuscan hill town of Vinci, in the territory of Florence. Little is known about his early childhood. He only recorded 2 incidents, one, which he considered in his later life as a presage, was when a kite descended from the sky to his cradle, touching his face with its feathers. The second, and this one might be more veridical, happened when he was exploring nature. He was always drawn to it, and since he can remember, he studied it with precision. He never stopped being in awe of the natural world. In his memory, he was exploring the mountains when he found a mysterious cave. He felt both fear and extreme curiosity. This affinity for the environment is an archetypal attribute and is present in Hunter x Hunter too. Ging freaks, probably the closest character to Leonardo da Vinci, was very similar to him in that aspect that is heavily emphasized on his son Gon as well. And it is also said that all good hunters are liked by animals. But let's continue with Leonardo's story. Leonardo's talent wasn't a secret to anyone, and at the age of 14, he was accepted as one of Andrea Verrocchio's apprentices in his workshop. Now, the artists of the Renaissance did not receive a formal education. They helped the artists they were working for in easy and tedious tasks, while thoroughly observing how he did the core aspects of his works. As their ability improved, they were given harder and more important duties. This cycle kept going on until they were capable enough to leave the workshop and start their own business as artists. Verrocchio was one of the most successful artists of his time. It was that his fame in Florence that he was assigned a monument to Bartolomeo Colleoni, a popular general. In the workshop of such an artist, Leonardo certainly learned a lot of things. The best and most efficient methods to use when working in statues and paintings, how to correctly perform the study of naked and clothed models, how to use color appropriately as well as a formation in Brunelleschi's linear perspective, and most importantly, he strengthened what would become his main and most legendary ability: observation. He learned how to observe nature in order to bring it to his paintings. He is most known for his works of the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, but he worked on many other things, and I am not only talking about paintings. He conducted extensive anatomical studies by dissecting more than 30 corpses. He spent years observing and analyzing the flight of birds and insects, which helped him to create designs of flying machines. He also conceptualized ideas for armored vehicles and hydraulic systems, among many more engineering inventions that were way ahead of his time. He was commissioned to work in military projects, including the design of weaponry, fortifications, and strategic plans for warfare. That's how broad and innovative his knowledge of engineering was. He conducted scientific investigations in various fields, including optics, geology, and hydrodynamics. He rigorously investigated the laws of waves and ocean currents. He even was our secret precursor to Copernicus' ideas of the sun not moving. The more you learn about this man, the more you start to wonder how he was able to excel in so many different fields and disciplines. And the accomplishments I mentioned were just a few. The answer to this is that he did not think of himself as an intellectual man. That was the reason he did not limit himself to a single field, as most scholars do. He viewed himself as an artist, and he judged the mission of an artist to be that of exploring the visible world. He wasn't interested in academic knowledge. He only trusted what he could prove by himself, and every problem he could find managed to challenge his rationality. That's why he worked in so many different endeavors. When Gon finally managed to meet Ging at the top of the world tree, he asked his father while looking at the sunset, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure, I might not give you an answer though." "And what is it that you want?" "That which I can't see in front of me right now." If you have yet to see how similar Leonardo da Vinci was to Ging freaks, let me expand on their likeness. Leonardo was a peculiar man who did not care about appearances, fame, nor opinions. He only thought about his art. Most of the commissions he was hired for were never finished. He ignored his clients' insistence. He was also fixated on how he was the only one who could decide when a work of his was finished or not. An eyewitness of his work at the Last Supper emphasized how much of an eccentric man Leonardo was. He could spend entire days with his arms crossed, doing nothing, just examining what he had already done before painting another stroke. These anecdotes feel very reminiscent of Ging freaks and his bad relationship with the Hunter Association's bureaucracy. He also has a bad reputation among the Zodiacs, as he does not care about the respect or recognition that comes with being there. He only wants to live to continue conducting his investigations and explorations of the vast world in which he lives. The only way in which he may find himself delving into a Hunter Association's affair is in that of seeking entertainment. Ging is a polyglot, and he possesses extensive knowledge in various academic fields. He was the one who trained Kite, not only in Nen, but probably in biology as well, without him himself being a biologist. And Kite was so proficient as a biologist that he led an elite group of biologists, whom he easily overshadowed. However, Ging only studies what he considers interesting, without receiving a formal education in the topic, just like Leonardo did. Another character who fits into the Renaissance man category, and who may be even more intriguing than Ging himself, is Chrollo Lucifer, the mysterious and ominous leader of the Phantom Troop. Chrollo is calm, smooth, and charismatic. He is also a genius, and this is not a secret to anybody. He is both unbelievably knowledgeable and intuitive. He is a strategic prodigy. His plans are usually unpredictable, while still several steps ahead of everyone else. Even when they fail, he always ends up winning in some way. He is heavily interested in religion, which can be quite obvious by judging the aesthetic he uses when hanging around with the troop. What makes it even more fascinating is that he is not a follower of any particular religion, even though his interest in religion is very deep. The scene that proves Chrollo's knowledge on those topics is in the thrilling Yorknew arc. Ging was flying in a hot air balloon while on a phone call with Chrollo at the same time.
The timing was so perfect. There is a Judas among us.
Chrollo's answer shocked both Ging and the audience. No, there is not. Besides, Judas wasn't a traitor. Hearing that quote, at first glance, it may seem like Chrollo was just being edgy, but that is far from the truth. Let me explain. When Christianity formed itself, there wasn't such a thing as the Orthodox Christianity we know today. That was a much later product of certain Christian currents declaring themselves as Orthodox and the rest as heretics. Christianity, in its beginning, was intertwined with movements such as Hermeticism and Gnosticism. There were not 4 canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as there are today. There were many more Gospels, currently known as the Apocryphal Gospels, since the arrival of Orthodox Christianity. Irenaeus of Lyon was a Greek bishop of the 2nd century, considered the biggest adversary of Gnosticism. In his best-known work, Against Heresies, he declared Gnostics as heretics, mentioning and criticizing Christian Gnostic works, such as a certain Gospel of Judas. Now, this Gospel of Judas had intrigued historians for centuries. It was a lost text, until National Geographic published it some decades ago. They found it, written in Coptic, an Egyptian language. If you know anything about Gnosticism, you are conscious of how they consider the material world, the place where we live, a prison. The human is trapped inside it, and the God we worship is not the true God. It's an imitation called Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth was ignorant of true divinity, and out of pure ignorance he considered himself the true God. In his imperfection, he made an even more imperfect creation, the material world. Quite a different story to Orthodox Christianity, right? In Gnosticism, the serpent in the Garden of Eden was actually sent by the true God. It imbued humans with an essence of true divinity, giving them the possibility of escaping the fake material world by attaining gnosis, salvation through spiritual knowledge. The Gospel of Judas consisted of several conversations between Judas and Christ. Judas was ahead of the rest of the apostles, as he was conscious of the realm of the Barbelo, the place where the true God resides. He told Jesus he knew where he came from, and how the rest of the apostles worshipped a fake God that would eventually bring destruction upon humanity. Jesus, aware of how Judas was his most loyal follower, entrusted him with the most important task in the history of humanity, that of betraying him so he could be crucified, giving humanity the chance for salvation. Judas in this gospel was a tragic figure, a martyr. This is the reason why Chrollo said Judas wasn't a traitor. He knew of the existence of apocryphal gospels. Or at least that's what I want to believe. Given all the details Togashi has added throughout the manga, I personally think it's perfectly possible. Chrollo was also an expert actor. Acting was a discipline he had felt drawn to since he was a kid. In his adulthood, he mastered it completely with his ruthlessness and his extensive knowledge on human psychology. This can be seen when he completely changed his appearance and personality to charm Neon Nostrade. He got her to open herself, a girl who even his father did not really know, and he impressively did so in the span of roughly 30 minutes. In the end, just like Ging and Leonardo were students of the world, Chrollo is fundamentally a student of the human condition. This is what makes Hunter x Hunter so compelling. Hunter x Hunter is a shonen, an essentially battle-focused story, and as you know, in other renowned shonen works, we tend to follow a character who usually starts off somewhat weak when compared with his universe's strongest characters, but with great talent and determination, trains and reaches the top of his world's strength pyramid. This is actually no different from Hunter x Hunter. The difference lies in Hunter x Hunter's incorporation of the Renaissance man's archetype. In this story, we follow an extensive set of characters who evolve in their pursuit of strength. But in this world, the strongest characters are almost always also the most competent in every other area. Take for example, the Chimera Ant King, Meruem, the strongest character we have ever laid eyes upon in what we have yet seen of the story. Meruem was also the most intelligent, and the fact he is a Chimera Ant does not make him an exception to the rule. This is what allowed Yoshihiro Togashi to create such an engaging story. We don't just follow the strongest characters, we follow the most interesting characters of his world. Without that making Hunter x Hunter stop being a shonen manga.